Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Criterion Connection. I'm Wade,
And I'm Joe.
and we're here to we're leaving the Before trilogy from last week, and now we're coming into this movie called Come and See. It's kind of a prequel to the Before trilogy, if you think about it. Anyway, no, we're not. We're doing Come and See from 1985, the Soviet Union, recent release on Blu-ray DVD. I think end of June. It's recent. This one was a bleak one, I'll tell you that. This one, we were last week. We were like, oh man, the Before trilogy so romantic and stuff like this. This not so much. There was
There's a
like,
bit of romance.
yeah, a little bit,
You
but
know, I like to dig holes and and find Nazi stuff.
I like the milk cows. But yeah, this movie, it's been revered pretty well. It's got good reviews and stuff like that. So what do we think of it? Aside from being very depressing and bleak, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I thought it was all right. For me, like because it's in another language and it's from another time, like I can't really comment on like the writing necessarily. To get those emotions out of the characters and really use an interesting technique with the characters looking directly into the camera when they're in these heightened emotion states was really interesting. And so in that respect, like I find it more of a, to me this movie's more of a curiosity than like something I would sit down and watch for entertainment.
Yeah. I'd say this. I would not watch this for entertainment.
Yeah.
I watch this more of like the experience, or if you want to do more filmmaking stuff, I'd
Yeah.
probably
Or
look towards this.
yeah, like I wouldn't sit down and watch this for entertainment or like for say like a documentary, like for informational background. This is kind of a stylized retelling of events
Yes.
through these individual characters and putting them in these situations. But yeah, like it's certainly like a movie to watch for an experience, like an emotional experience, and just kind of observing techniques in storytelling.
Yes. So a little backstory. This is based on a book from
Mm-hmm.
1978. It's called "I Am from the Fiery Village." It's basically about this teenage boy, Floria, enlisting in the military and basically his descent into war and terror of horror and just awful stuff.
Yeah, and the arc is he's in his mind the resistance movement and fighting for your country and freedom is this grandiose overture kind of you know a la the American patriotism in their war movies back then, but he quickly finds out that things aren't the way he imagines them, and the realities of war are far, far, far worse than he ever really considered. His wide-eyed, like, I'm helping the resistance, and then he's on watch, and the commander comes up and questions why he didn't shoot him. When he didn't give him the password. It's just a moment where you're not ready for this. You're still too young.
Yeah, and it's he goes through the ringer. He meets this girl Glasha.
Yeah,
Um,
Glasha or
what was it?
Glafara, Glafia,
This is
yeah,
Glafia. I think that's
Glafia. That's it. Yeah.
yes. She's an interesting character because she's kind of mesmerizing. I think it's more in her eyes. She's a little mesmerizing, but also you can see like a little darkness in her
She's
on that
very
first
much
scene.
another damaged person.
Yes. Like you think, okay, it's kind of grimy a little bit, and then the parabombers show up around like 37 minutes and just bomb the hell out of their camp. So it's just him and Glasha going like just crawling through mud, just like they're going through just some hell in this forest.
Yeah, and it rains most of the time. A lot of the soldiers in the camp had already moved on and were doing some other mission, which is what he got left behind and she got left behind for. But the rest of the camp is just blown to smithereens, just
Yeah.
without regard. Which that's in a really intense sequence with the bombs going off, and you're at ground level, and they're going off like 12 feet away from the camera.
Yeah, and then machine guns start going off.
Right, and it's just the Nazi forces coming in and just if there's people, just wiping them out,
Yeah.
and that's
It's
just their mission. And so Glasha and Fioria, Fiora, um, they hide out. And he's like, I know exactly what we need to do, and he's going to take her back to his village.
yeah.
You
Because
know,
that's all
so
he
they can.
knows.
Well, that's yeah, it's all he knows, and he's like, we'll rest up and then we'll rejoin. Like we'll rendezvous back with the group. Things continue to go downhill, which
Yes.
I think is a good summary statement of this movie.
Yeah. It all goes downhill from here. One of the striking scenes is when he comes back to like it's not really the village, but it's like the camp that had like it's basically the remnants of the villagers. And you see that the town elder just he was covered in petrol and burnt to a crisp. And
Yeah.
now that sucked. That sucked to watch. And then he finds out that his family has been murdered.
Yep. And he, just like the village elder, I mean, it's very superstition. You know, he dug up this gun, and then all of a sudden, that's what happens.
Yeah. So he's
You know,
trying to, and I love how he tries to dig, and he puts his head in the sand. Well, it's not like sand; it's muck and mud.
yeah, he
But
puts his head under.
it
Yeah.
it's like he's trying to get back to the beginning of the movie where he was like under the sand finding the guns. He just wanted to go back to that time and just not do it ever again. And then Glasha pulls him out, and then she's holding him, and all these villagers are crying around him. It was very unsettling.
hmm
It's definitely burnt in my brain now.
Well, he was the one of very few, if any, of the villagers that that was joining the resistance movement. And again, it's one of those things. The one thing that changed is the one thing that caused all this problem,
Yeah, and
and
it
it
was him.
was
Yeah,
him joining the resistance.
it's just like so many consequences. And then oh, he found this new guy. They go get the cow or whatever. I was like, he found a new friend, and then nope.
Yeah, the guy who finds him in the bog.
I think okay, the village scene. It can't be worse than that. Like him finding out his mom died, and his siblings died. Nope, nope. And then he ends up in that village with the barn.
Yeah,
And then the SS soldiers commandeer it, and yep, that whole scene just can't. It's so messed up.
it's a hard movie to watch.
Yeah, the Molotovs, like, oh my god.
Yeah,
The one woman being dragged by her hair. This is not a kids movie, by the way. We have to preface this is not a kids movie.
yeah,
SS soldiers leave. Well, especially at one scene, it's used in a lot of pictures. If you look up the movie, it's the SS officers holding the gun to his head. They didn't kill him. It was more of fear, and they wanted to gloat.
again, this is very much one of those experiential movies where they're taking specific moments for this character and it's giving a general, like, this is what happened when the Nazis would roll through. Firebomb the whole place. They would come in and just shoot anybody, standing around. They took prisoners, all kinds of untold atrocities on those villages. And I mean, I believe it's brought up at the end with the credit sequences. It's all stuff that's happened to people, whether or not it's like a specific person or specific events for a certain group.
And the thing about the movie is, what makes it interesting is usually if you see like a World War II movie, you're watching it via the Americans' perspective or
Mhm.
Europe's perspective. You rarely get like a movie that's in the Soviet Union's perspective.
You do get these movies that pop up like Paths of Glory, and now we have like Come and See, and then like Platoon in the '80s. It's not holding back. Like, no, war isn't valiant or heroic. It's an evil and very destructive thing,
Yes.
and it shows it for every ounce of horribleness that it is.
Yeah, there's not once that this movie never glorifies war.
No.
It's the loss of innocence. That's the
Hmm.
idea of the movie. This kid starts wide-eyed and excited
I'm gonna
to
fight, with the adults, and we're gonna take back Belarus,
yeah,
and things just aren't that simple.
excited teenage kid to looking like he's 80 years old
Hmm.
in the face. Like he's looking rough at the end of this movie by just fear and stress and anxiety. He's scared to death sometimes. Like at the he gets saved by the resistance. It ends with he finds this picture of Hitler and he just starts firing at it. And it's kind of it's interesting because you see Hitler and his whole the final solution and all that, and it starts rewinding to when he's a baby,
Hmm.
and then he stops. I don't know exactly what that symbolizes. Maybe it's he sees himself a little bit because Hitler was not always a monster. He was a wide-eyed child at one point. He was a baby like all of us, and but evil and all that corrupts. And he starts crying, and then Mozart's Requiem
Hmm.
behind him, and that scene with the Requiem score with it, so good. The visuals are surreal. They're hyper realistic, very realistic and dirty and grimy and stuff. But it also feels like it's a delirium.
Yeah, and I've seen that too. And I think the way like they play to the camera in a lot of those scenes does it. It makes things feel a little off.
Yeah.
And then like the haziness that is kind of pervasive throughout the film. Once he leaves home, he's walked into a nightmare that not only doesn't end, but continuously escalates.
There's other things that are very kind of surreal, like the is it a crane? Is that what it is? That bird?
I don't know exactly. It could have been a crane. It could have been a pelican. I don't know.
And that ever looming plane. When he looks up, there's a plane. War's always everywhere you look. Pretty much, it's war for
Hmm.
him. Also, the cinematography is great in this movie, and also the props to the cameraman. I'm sure that cameraman probably had almost a lot of injuries with those explosions and gunfire.
Having to film from like within the bog.
Yeah, like props to that cinematographer, and the score is pretty good too.
It
Makes me
never
think.
overstates itself.
Yeah,
It always is a supporting element.
yeah.
It's in the background, and it just tries to. It's more of like whispering in your ear.
Going through the muck of the bog, and they just have this like dissonant like string score
Well,
going on.
there's that, and then I would say the Mozart part is those few times where the score kind of steps out from the shadows and is like, I'm gonna make things real obvious for you.
I do want to point out we have to give props to the actor Alexei Kravchenko. I'm sorry if I butchered that, but he's great in this. For a young actor, knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I mean it's literally a movie on his shoulders.
So Joe, this is the toughest question. I've been racking this in my brain for a while. Buy, rent, or skip?
I'm not gonna go above a rent or a stream. Um, it's it's one of those, like, it's a very powerful and a very taxing movie to watch. So it's hard for me to say that it's a buy to watch more than once. It's not indicative of the quality necessarily, but it's one of those, like, that movie was so hard to watch once. Like, I can't imagine doing it again. It's very much like a Requiem for a Dream for a lot of people, or an Irreversible, or Showa. Like, they're movies that are just so difficult to watch once. Like, it's hard to ask somebody to sit through it again. But it's something that you'll keep with you for a long time. It's definitely worth watching at least once, just to feel the resonant power of it.
Yeah, I'm in the middle there. I would say buy for the special features because looking at the special features, there's a lot. But when it comes just to the movie, I'm in the same boat of streaming. I probably won't watch this a second time. It's not against the movie. The movie is haunting and beautiful at the same time.
In fact, instead of it being an indictment of the movie, it's almost like a credit to the movie. Like, no,
Yeah,
no, you captured it well enough. I only need to see it one time.
yeah. It's I got it. I don't want to like. I'd probably watch it in doses if I ever watch it again. Like just watch parts that I want to rewatch, like
Mm-hmm.
just for like, oh, the camera movement's great or something like that. I would never want to watch it for You cannot watch this for entertainment value. I think.
For somebody to watch this multiple times, you know, it's almost masochistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, and I've been accused of being that way a few times with certain movies, but
it's a great movie. It's a great war movie. I have seen people say it's the best war movie ever made. I don't watch enough war movies to tell that,
it's
but
up there.
it's up there, and it's also probably one of the most real. So that's our thoughts on Come and See. Let us know in the comment section below what you thought of Come and See. Is it something you're excited for? What's another war? There's plenty of war movies on Criterion.
Yeah,
As you met,
I brought up one that we haven't done yet, which is Paths of Glory,
yeah, yeah. So until next time, I'm Wade,
and I'm Joe.
and we'll see you later.